I was thinking in the bathroom this morning how I wanted to start this episode. Oh yeah. So you're gonna cut out all of that out and open it right now.
Yep.
Listen up, y'all, because this is it. That's it. That's the only bit I...
Wait, what does that mean?
Remember that song that's like, listen up, y'all, because this is it. Na 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 na. For delicious definition.
All right. This is the last time that we will ever talk about BoJack. That's not true.
Ever.
But
there will be moments where I'll like bolt up in the dead of night and
20 years from now I'll be like, I have to watch BoJack.
I have to watch BoJack right now.
Oh boy. So yeah, in this installment, we're going to talk about The View from Halfway Down and Nice While It Lasted, the final 2 episodes of BoJack. And we have a lot of notes. We had to like pause consistently while we were rewatching it to put all of our notes down. So this is probably going to be a doozy.
The View from Halfway Down alone has a full page
we have
notes.
more than a full page kind of for each episode. So let's get into things.
Well, first off, the how do you say penultimate?
Penultimate, yeah.
Yeah, the penultimate episodes of BoJack seasons are usually very hard-hitting.
Yeah.
And then usually the last episode is very, like, feel-good.
Yeah, that is, like, a pattern that they've kind of established, since the beginning, and something that they've been, like, self-consciously aware of, at least for a little while, whether or not that was always their intention.
Yeah.
Because they've referenced that, how, like, our second to last episodes are always really hard. Intense.
Yeah.
So, obviously at this point, it's the reputation. So going in, you're like, this episode is gonna destroy me, and it did.
Well, even then, I forgot that it was, like, that was the pattern, and then I was like, oh, yeah, that is. And, like, even, like, seasons where I don't necessarily... Like, season 5, I've mentioned, is, like, probably my least favorite season, but one of my favorite episodes is definitely, The Show Stopped, which is the penultimate...
The Showstopper?
Yeah, The Showstopper.
Yeah.
The Show Stopped is, like, the next episode, isn't it?
I would say, of all the penultimate episodes, that one is my least favorite, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? What's your favorite?
My favorite...
Well, my favorite now is this one, but...
My favorite is... probably this one. Wait, let me open up.
Wait, Times Arrow, I forgot about Times
actually,
Arrow.
My favorite is Times Arrow. I mean, I can open up my ranking of BoJack episodes and see what order I apparently put them in. Okay, so I put Times Arrow, then The View from Halfway Down, then Escape from LA, then...
really?
Then Downer Ending, then...
I guess...
Showstopper.
Yeah.
Is that all of them?
Yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
That's 6?
Yeah.
Not including the first half of the season, which had a very different like structure in that sense. But that's my personal ranking.
Wow, I think part of
the Showstopper.
Well, I think part of why I like the Showstopper is the narrative structure of it is very different from how they usually do it, where it's this kind of dream sequence where BoJack is going in between. It's very unclear what the time frame is because he's going in between because he's so overdosed and on his medications. Yeah. And it's going between his real life, the Filbert set and stuff. Exactly. So I really like that, and I like the structure of him consistently seeing the golden staircase, because I literally thought BoJack was going to die by the end of that episode, because I was like, holy shit. But I really like it when they kind of go in that out of weird whack kind of way, like they did with that one in Downer Ending.
I forgot about That's Too Much Man. Where did I put that one in my ranking? Did I put that one below the Showstopper? Maybe I was lying.
You lied.
No, I put That's Too Much Man above. Between Downer Ending and
Sugarman
and the Showstopper. No, well, just going off of the penultimate episodes.
Hot take.
Yeah, that's my hot take, is actually the season 5 penultimate episode is my least favorite of all of them.
I don't, well, like I was saying, and then you interrupted me.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay.
That's what we do on this show.
Well, I like that, I like the structure of that, and I like that it's, that kind of dream sequence. And Downer Ending does that, too, but I think that's also why I really like View from Halfway Down. And also, there's just so much in this episode.
Yeah, this episode's a masterpiece.
Yeah, this episode, I was freaking out this entire
I heard someone maybe say it was the highest rated episode now on IMDb or whatever.
Oh, really?
Should we Google that?
Sure, why not?
So the View from Halfway Down has a perfect 10 on IMDb, which probably is. I can't figure out how to sort this page, but it's definitely very high. Also, Nice While It Lasted has a really good score too of 9.6.
Yeah, it does. But there's just a lot in this episode that just like is referential back to everything else, and there's a lot of hidden meaning. I want to start off.
Wait. Can I just say one thing real quick that might be more precedent to what you're about to say, because I can read your mind?
Okay, yes.
So I think that when we were going into the finale for BoJack, there were like two ways they could have taken it. We could have either gotten a total downer ending where BoJack died and everything was horrible and awful, or we could have gotten sort of a quiet, nice, ultimately optimistic or bittersweet ending. And they gave us both.
Yeah, they did.
We got both. And I mean, like, the final note was that more optimistic, bittersweet note. Right. But we still got, like, all of that good angst that I would have wanted. So I was just very, very, very happy with everything about this
because
ending.
I didn't want BoJack to die at the end.
No.
I think if BoJack died at the end of the series, out of a 6-season series that shows the struggle of a character who struggles immensely with, like, an addictive personality who clearly has depression and mental health issues that a lot of people
and an abusive like kind of past and stuff,
like that a lot of people relate to, and showing that he dies at the end, like
honestly, people that like wanted BoJack to die at the end. Why?
I'm sorry. I don't understand. I'm sorry. Like, I know BoJack's like he does shit and he's a terrible character, but at the same time, he's also, I think the whole point is that like it's not an excuse, but it's a reasoning, and it's also an explanation, and he still struggles with stuff. And I think the whole point is that he tries to get better, and even though he fails time and time again, ending your show on a character who struggles with addiction, who obviously has mental health issues that people relate to, ending with suicide, I'm sorry, that's shit.
Yeah, it would have been shit. And, like, they already did the kind of hopeless thing with, like, Sarah Lynn.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, why do we need to see it twice?
Exactly.
You know?
I don't want a hopeless ending. And also, but the thing is, too, the other part of me was like, there are so many references throughout the entire series about BoJack drowning.
Yeah. So that was the one thing that
I didn't want that to fall away, like them to not use it.
Yeah. I totally agree. Like, that was the one thing, like, I was like, I fully think this season is gonna have ultimately a happy ending. I don't think he's gonna die. But the one thing that kept me from being, like, 100% confident was all that consistent drowning imagery from the very beginning. Yes. And kind of a lot of the foreshadowing that people have pointed out. And so I love that they were able to use that while not making it, like, a downer ending.
Right. And the other thing, too, it's like one of the biggest instances with the drowning thing, and if you guys don't know what we're referencing, is there's a lot of references throughout the show about drowning.
A lot of people have talked about this.
Yeah, and you can find, like, there's a full Reddit list too if you Google it. That's like every single time they reference it, and you can also say like it also references like alcoholism and like depression in general.
It could be a metaphorical thing, but it could also be
but it's
very
so
literal
on the dot with it. But
it's both.
But one of my favorite things is that the season opener throughout the entire 6 seasons references BoJack drowning
in the pool.
Yeah, in the pool, but like the
which
final
is like
season
obviously
6,
you know? It's like one of those things that's like, yeah, duh, of course this is the place that we were leading all along. And I just love that because, like, I don't know whether they intended that or whether the kind of pool, like, sinking back into the pool, the view from halfway down in the pool was sort of, like, just this metaphorical thing that they were building on. But, you know, there's all this other drowning imagery, like in Downer Ending when he's like, I'll just let the lake take me and when I'm too old.
Or he likes treading, like, should we help him when he's drowning? It's like, no, he likes treading water. But the thing that got me with season 6 is, like, everything. Season 6 opener is like so much different from all the others, but that stays. But the difference is BoJack's eyes are wide open, and it's so haunting.
Yeah, like when he falls back into the pool. Yeah.
Also, with the opener, I want to reference back to our first podcast when we were talking about it, and how I pointed out how every single character that's looking at BoJack is dead, and how that carries back to this episode. Thank you.
Yeah, so you were totally right about kind of the way that they. The way that they followed through with what they were showing in the opening about the way that BoJack's going to confront kind of the people in his life that are gone.
Yes.
So the opening shows specifically Herb, Sarah Lynn, Beatrice. Yeah. Those are the only ones that are shown, but so those 3 on the episode as well.
And they're like the biggest ones.
And I keep trying to think of, we should have done, but are the characters in this little thing the only like sort of named characters that have died in the show? Because I can't even think of anyone else?
I
feel like it is.
I'd have to rewatch the show again.
I know. I don't think there's been anybody else who has had, like, a name, at least, and a little bit of a character that has died.
Well, and then we were kind of talking about, because we know it's, like, it wasn't necessarily canceled. Netflix was just kind of, like, they said, like, hey, they asked Netflix, hey, when you guys kind of want us to start wrapping up, can you give us a warning?
Please, like, tell us when it's going to be our last season. And they said, all right, we're telling you.
Yeah.
Which is,
So I kind of wonder if they had other spots for characters that they were planning on killing off that would show up in this episode.
Right. Although
I think structurally it's fine. But anyway, maybe we should start.
Yeah, we should start going into the kind of actual... I mean, we don't need to go into, like, everything that actually happened in the episode.
No, we do.
No, we don't. Well, one of the first things is he appears at the house with, like, Sarah Lynn, so it's kind of
he literally brings
her to
Death's door.
Which is that's a lot to deal with.
Right.
And the fact that she kind of grows up in a couple stages throughout this episode, and that just makes me think of one of my favorite parts in, like, the pilot episode, and he's like, Todd, did Sarah Lynn grow before her eyes? What? Did Sarah Lynn grow before her eyes? Yes!
I love
like,
that
that's just one of my favorite interactions.
I love that bit. But it's also very true, because she did literally, because she's such a child star, and that kind of ruined her, of course.
Yeah. And those kind of, like, all of the, you know, stages that we've seen her. It's pretty cool.
I was confused by the bird in the house for a long time.
Yeah, so the bird in the house is... People have been kind of theorizing about this, and I was, like, trying to figure out who this bird is. I'm like, has this bird been in the show before?
Right.
But the explanation that I saw that makes most sense is that a bird in the house is, like, an omen of death.
Yeah.
But if the bird, like, is able to escape through a window, then it's kind of like, you know, crisis averted. So that makes a lot of sense with the context of the episode. So I fully think that's it. And I talked to my mom about this, weirdly enough, and she's like, oh, I've heard about the bird in the house thing. So I'm like, okay, I'll accept it.
Well, the thing is, I've heard about that omen before, or, like, that superstition before, and I was like...
You've had a bird in my house before, growing up.
Yeah, I think everyone's had a bird in their house before.
I mean, I'm gonna die.
You're not special. Did the bird get out?
Yeah.
I mean, eventually
the bird's gonna get out, so...
Well, but the thing is, too, that kind of culminates back to the very end of the episode, where the bird comes back, and before the bird is able to get out of the window, the tar takes the bird down. So...
Yeah, it is kind of interesting the bird, you know, gets out but then comes back, so it kind of shows... Because he got out of the pool and he went back in. Bro, because he got out of the pool
and he went back in.
So the bird came back.
Oh!
I don't know. Maybe that's nothing, but
maybe.
I just thought of that.
I think Cracker Jack and BoJack interacting is very cute.
Yeah, it's very sweet to see these characters and like for BoJack, for this person who's been this sort of mythical figure in his life, and also the person who kind of started all the problems with his family.
I think
by dying.
Cracker Jack as a character is super interesting because the entire thing with the BoJack family started when he died, leading to his mom's lobotomy, leading to Beatrice's like terrible upbringing,
yeah, and her own issues that she passed on to BoJack.
Yeah, exactly. It all starts.
Like, you can't have or show any emotions.
Right, exactly. So it all starts from Cracker Jack, which is very interesting because I mean, it's not like Cracker Jack meant to.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting to see them interact, and I was just like, oh my god, it's Lin-Manuel Miranda again.
Yeah.
This is very funny.
It's him.
It's him. He's here. So that in the living room of the house, there's some paintings on the wall, and it's just kind of, you know, some of the significant paintings from the show.
Yeah.
The most notable one is the one that he had in his office, which is the pool and, like, the Narcissus myth, like, painting.
Yeah.
But it's changed that BoJack in the pool is, like, face down, like, floating.
Which is, like, so haunting.
Yeah, so it's, like, the clues were there from, like, the very beginning of this episode, which I think is really cool because... like, there's a lot of little things that you can pick up on.
Yeah, I think my favorite part of this episode is, like, you're not sure clearly yet what's going on.
Yeah.
You don't know if BoJack's dreaming
really
or
cool
what. So it's really cool. And you start, like, you're like, he can't be dead. Can he be dead?
Yeah.
And so it's, like, I like that it plays around with that.
Right, because we don't know what... like, at the end of last episode, we don't really know what happened. He was just in the house.
Right, and how it clicks off from, like, horsing around. We don't know what happened after that.
So, yeah, the way that this is told is just like, oh, shit.
Right.
the recurring thing of the drip and kind of like...
I love this.
We've been calling it the tar because we're pretty sure it's a...
Well, I feel like it references multiple things.
Yeah.
I think it references Charlotte's line back in season 2.
Or maybe one.
No, season 1 in the telescope.
Yeah,
when she says this town is a tar pit and I think you're the tar. But I also...
well then, like, later on, she says, no, you're the tar pit. In season 2,
And I also
which is one of my favorite themes in BoJack.
Oh, same. But I also think it kind of references, that really early quote BoJack says where he's like, I think there's a leak inside of me and all the good things, spilled out.
Yeah, that could definitely be it too.
I think
it's just a good like motif. I don't even know
too.
if I think the tar pit thing kind of makes sense.
That's what immediately what I thought of
because of the way that it looks, but it might not even have to have a really specific meaning. It's just kind of a good like visual.
I think so too.
And the way the drip kind of speeds up at that one part, and like it's just cool. It's well done.
I think it's well done, and I think I mean, just like everything, it could represent just like all the badness, like dragging you down.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the void too.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh god, he has a void inside him.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like, they kind of like they all go into the door, and that's kind of where it is, and it's this just void that's like reaching out.
I'll talk more about what I think the door is.
But... Oh yeah, okay. So then we get like the dinner conversation scene, which is just like an incredible fucking scene.
I know.
And like every time you watch it, it's just better because like every line is doing so much, and I mean, like it's BoJack trying to process like his own mortality and the people that he's lost and how he makes sense of their lives and deaths and like the meaning and or meaninglessness of everything. Like, what was it all for? And like it explores so many interesting things, like the idea of like sacrifice and like selfishness and pleasure and authenticity and the idea of having a legacy. And I just love this because what is a legacy? It's putting seeds in a garden you never get to see. Hamilton stands. Smash that subscribe button.
Hamilton stands are like, I only watched this episode because Lynn was in it.
That would be very confusing if you only watched the 2 episodes that Lynn was in.
Did you know actually Broadway stands found out Lynn was in BoJack like a lot sooner than like other people?
Did he like announce it or something? And
I think it just like kind of got leaked somehow.
Oh,
and I'm gonna
funny.
guess that reached like BoJack fans too. But my girlfriend who's a Broadway stan was saying how like she found, and then everyone's like, what's BoJack? And I was like, you fucking idiots. Theater kids.
God damn it.
What do you mean you don't like the show that makes fun of everything that's in celebrityism and everything you want?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
But no, and I agree. And I think there's like this kind of idea that like the people that BoJack's talking to, they're kind of saying things he needs to hear from them. There's like this idea that like they're not really authentically that character. You know what I'm saying?
Right, because it's all his kind of projections and ideas of what they might say, but also what he thinks about them.
Yeah.
And how he's trying to just make sense of all these really messy ideas.
Yeah.
And like, you know, his brain is just going through what it thinks it needs to go through.
Yeah, no.
And there's just some really cool kind of, visual, like little Easter eggs in here. Like, they're all like eating their last meals, sort of. That's how I interpreted it, because BoJack has pills and like the vodka, and Herb has the peanuts,
right?
And like the army rations, for Cracker Jack, and like the nursing home meal like, for Beatrice. The lemon, yeah. So like whether it's kind of literal or just like the last thing that they ate or consumed.
When I first saw this episode, the scene that tipped me off, that I knew immediately he was drowning, and this is like him going through purgatory or like whatever his brain needs to go through, was when he coughed up the water and said, "Why does this taste like chlorine?" I was like, shit.
Yeah. I
was like, this is it, everybody. Shit, this is it.
Shit, this is it. That is such a good line. And then a little bit later, he's like, "Oh, like I was swimming earlier."
Oh yeah.
There's kind of like 2 little references there before it becomes like very clear later on.
That's another thing too. It's like it's really unclear to BoJack, because at first he thinks he knows what he's like. Oh yeah, I've had this dream multiple times where I dream of everyone who's passed away having dinner.
Yeah, and he mentions that to
Dr. Champ.
Yeah, to Dr. Champ earlier in the season. So he just thinks he's like, I must be sleeping.
Right, so we're kind of figuring out with BoJack. So when he was like, I was swimming earlier, we're kind of figuring it out too.
Yeah.
Exactly, and especially when he gets later about Diane. So
the moment that we fucking lost it.
Moment number one.
Well, yeah, there might have already been a couple moments, but one of the biggest moments I lost it was the Secretariat entrance, and he's also Butterscotch Horseman.
I can't believe Secretariat and Butterscotch fused.
Which is just, I feel like it's genius for so many reasons,
It
and
really
it also
is.
makes a lot of sense on sort of a practical and like metaphorical note too. Because for one thing, I mean, they wanted Will Arnett to read the poem The View from Halfway Down, right?
Yeah.
They didn't want fucking John Krasinski, Jim from The Office, to read the poem, you know? Like, it makes it so much, like, more meaningful if it's, like, Secretariat, and then also having that kind of comparison to his dad.
Right. And comparing both his
and to himself.
his dad and to Secretariat all at the same time.
Right. Yeah, and to himself, since it's the same voice, and you kind of get that all of that going on in just this one choice to have it be a different voice.
Exactly.
It's so good.
Right. It also brings up the idea that BoJack, obviously, he was never close to his father, so he looked up to Secretariat as a father figure.
He kind of like raised him through the TV.
Right, exactly. Going back to BoJack was raised by television.
Right.
And bases everything off of television.
And I think it's interesting, like, his dad wasn't, like, he's here, but he doesn't take the same level of kind of importance.
Yeah, which I think is really cool. Like, Crackerjack has bigger importance.
Yeah, BoJack's like, fuck my dad.
Well, that's the thing, too. It's like,
Butterscotch.
BoJack has never met Crackerjack, and the image he sees of him is from images that he's seen from, like, pictures.
Right, yeah.
And I kind of think this it's kind of like, obviously BoJack remembers what his dad looks like and stuff, but maybe he cares not to remember him. He cares rather to remember Secretariat.
Yeah, it is more of like a distance, because he shows up late too, and it's like,
he shows up late.
This relationship that was so, like, bad.
Well, even when before he passed away, and, you know, there's like that, in Time's Arrow, when Beatrice has a flashback and she's giving the painting to BoJack, Butterscotch is still alive, but we can kind of get from that BoJack is in more communication with his mother than his father.
Yeah, you definitely get the sense that he has not seen his dad.
Even though he doesn't want to talk to his mom, she talks or sees BoJack a lot
She's
more
like,
than
you're
Butterscotch.
You're going to be seeing me, whether you like it or not.
Right, exactly. But he might not even, like, see Butterscotch a lot. And I think that's really evident, because I think Butterscotch just kind of locked himself away into his hiding hole, his writing room.
Hidey hole.
I don't know what I was going to say.
His
hiding
man
hole.
cave.
His man cave.
Do my writing in here.
Here's my best Beatrice impression. Oh, go back to your man cave and write your silly little poem. Write your silly poem.
So then the show, we've kind of been racking our brains over the chairs. Because each of the characters is sitting in a different, like, style of chair. I got nothing.
So my first thought, and I don't think this has any connection whatsoever, was at an AA meeting, the chairs might be different.
No.
Right. No. Well, you look at me like I'm stupid. That's the only thing I could think of.
Why would you think that?
I don't know. Because, like, one of the chairs looks like maybe like that normal folded out chair you would do for an AA meeting. There's definitely, like, a couch, like, cushy chair that Zach Braff gets.
Oh, wait, you mean, like, one of the chairs represents an AA meeting?
Yes, that's what I was saying.
Okay. I thought you said, like, the chairs are different because at a meeting, AA chairs are different. No. And I was like, no, what are you talking about? I'm sorry.
You don't even let me work through my own thoughts. God, I hate... You are my biggest burden to bear.
Are you serious right now?
Wouldn't it be funny if this was the last time we spoke?
No, you can't say that to me.
I'm so sorry. I'm kidding. Okay. No, so I don't even know if there is, that's just, all of them are different.
I know, yeah, I can't figure it out. It might, I don't know what it is. And also, like, there's just some architecture and kind of looks to the house that they're in.
Yeah.
That I'm also like, I feel like this probably means
the kitchen
something.
Is obviously the kitchen from Horsing Around, and the stage at first is, the brick wall is the open mic stage.
Where he did, like, stand up with her.
Right, yeah.
So there's a couple things that are really clear, but, like, the dining room, I'm like, what, does this signify something? I don't know.
And, like, and at first I thought the living room was possibly the living room BoJack grew up in, but then I started...
It's not the exact same, like, the other things are the exact same.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, or I don't know if there's just some kind of general, like, something that they're trying to draw attention to. But it's cool. I mean, it's got some really cool set pieces. And then obviously the bridge is another clear kind of set
absolutely
piece,
yeah,
which I really like.
Human Secretariat,
yeah. Okay, so the show. So Sarah Lynn is up first. And she's wearing the outfit from
Herb's funeral.
As other people I think have pointed out. And then, yeah, her performance was just like...
Second time I fucking lost my shit.
Second time we lost our minds.
Was, so they do a reprise from Don't Stop Dancing from, the Showstopper.
And it's like, the themes in the Showstopper were like, they were there, and I feel like this kind of version, there's like a couple differences.
Yeah, they flip it a little bit.
In the lyrics that just like really... like drive it home and kind of align it more to Sarah Lynn specifically.
Yeah, I agree because
and
I think
the mortality aspect more so.
I agree.
Then the Showstopper was more about just like living and performing, and this is like you're dead. What's your legacy?
Right. Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Like now the show's fucking over.
There's that line that's like ended and your legacy lives on.
Yes. Yeah.
The idea, obviously, comparing to like now that Sarah Lynn's dead. Before Sarah Lynn was kind of her career was dead. Like when we first meet Sarah Lynn in the show,
right? She's sort of washed up.
She's a washed up celebrity.
Like BoJack a little bit.
Yeah.
Except she was a much bigger celebrity.
She was a much bigger celebrity than BoJack, which is another thing I feel like the song kind of calls attention to. Honestly. Mm-hmm. After she dies, people start talking about Sarah Lynn a lot more. Yeah,
there's that reference in, like, the earlier this season when they're talking about the way her mom has, like, sold out kind of, like, her legacy just for money and those kinds of ads. Like, I died for a Pepsi and, like, using her likeness.
Right.
And, yeah, and that, like,
so her legacy kind of lives on. And then,
in a way that she has no control
They switch from, the curtain falls to the curtain call.
So just Don't Stop Dancing till the curtain call. And I kind of like that because, I mean, that's sort of like you're taking a bow. Like, but it's the last thing. I feel like a lot of this kind of lyric exchange reminded me of like a funeral of kind of like the last kind of like send off. And they sort of have the like the podium and the flowers that are very reminiscent of a funeral kind of throughout this scene. And another lyric she says is like the overture is a lifetime, but the show is short. Yeah. Here with all your family and friends. And that very much made me think of a funeral. Yeah. As far as like your lifetime is the overture, and then the show, the kind of performance that like celebrates and sums up your life is like the funeral. This is like BoJack holding a funeral for all of his friends and himself.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing. And I think that's like what part of this song is saying too. And going back to like the legacy, imagine if this was BoJack's final moment and how that would have changed his legacy. Like, oh no, BoJack committed suicide, and then he's kind of seen as a martyr. Yeah, but since he was found and brought back,
everyone is like, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, like everyone's like, wow, you're going to jail. You're going to jail, and you're going to jail for murder.
18 months or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, for like 18 months. But
for a little beanie.
And then of course the final part of the song that really hits me is the crowd, the crowd departs, the needle drops, the music starts, a song you taught me when I was small, referencing back to how BoJack brought Sarah Lynn into all of this at the beginning.
Right, and what he says to her and like,
Prickly Muffin.
Yeah, you never stop dancing. You give the people what you want.
Yep, exactly. And how it all carries back to that. And then that's finally when she, like, goes into the door.
And, yeah, I mean, it's so interesting, too, because, like, Kristen Schaal has such a funny voice.
Yeah.
But, like, God, she makes me cry in that part.
I think Kristen Schaal Kristen Schaal is, Sarah Lynn is very funny
It doesn't make any sense, and I think that's really funny, because you'll hear her, like, singing, like, the pop songs that she's supposed to have that are big hits. I love the one, like, my hiney ain't so tiny. Or, like,
my hiney ain't so tiny.
It's so funny. And then you're like, her voice is not good. No. And, like, that's kind of hilarious. But then in this part, it's just, I don't know, it's still so sad and it still hits so hard, even though she kind of has that weird voice. Whereas I would say, like, Gina, who's played by
the girl from Brooklyn Nine-Nine,
Stephanie Beatrice, I think has a really nice voice. Yeah. So it's kind of, I like
Kristen Schaal's voice really matches Sarah Lynn as a character, because her voice is so baby and so small, and Sarah Lynn's entire character, when she, like, gets into, like, an older sense, is like, I don't want America to think I'm that kid anymore. They need to know I'm sexy and I have sex.
People like
like sex, which is very funny.
But then she also has this little bit of like kind of edginess, though. You know? Yeah. I don't know.
She does.
She really has given an amazing performance over these 6 seasons. Thank you for your service, Kristen Shaw.
I'll let her know what you said.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll email her right now.
Call her up.
Be like, hi, is this Mabel from Gravity Falls? No, but yeah, the whole "Don't Stop Dancing"
so that
really
was like oof. So then from that we sort of go into the conversation between Secretariat and BoJack, which is also like a doozy. That is a scene. And I just love it. It's kind of more of him trying to work through this of like, is there such thing as peace? And I just love the kind of like, you know, bitterness in here and kind of grappling with fame too. Because it's like, and yet here I am, same as you, even though I was this kind of larger than life.
Right, because he's talking to both Secretariat and his dad. He's relating to different parts at different times. Like at the one point, he's trying to relate to Secretariat about like, how do you get peace from like having fame? Does that grant you peace? Does that make your life fulfilled? He can't relate to that with his dad.
Although I feel like it's very much his dad that says like peace. That's someone trying to convince himself of something. So it's just the way it goes back and forth.
Because BoJack didn't know Secretariat on a personal level, so he doesn't know what Secretariat's gonna say.
He didn't know his dad on a personal level.
Yeah, but he knows how his dad would respond to shit like this because his dad talked at him enough.
Right. He has ideas about them both, and it's so heartbreaking. Well, it's very funny too, and he says like, I know this part is confusing because I'm Secretariat and also your dad for some reason. Like that's the kind of just like on like
It reminds me was it? No, it wasn't Downer Ending. That one episode where they kept doing flashbacks, and then it's like BoJack's talking to the hamster dude who made the BoJack show. Was it Downer? And
no, it was. That's too much, man.
Yeah, and it's like, and our audience was confused by the different time swaps and stuff.
Why won't comedy writers learn? Audiences hate meta jokes.
I like the meta jokes.
I know, I love the meta jokes.
I think they're very funny.
But yeah, I love that. And then he's like, you know, I cared so much, like the things that BoJack wanted to hear from his father, but like never would have. He never would have said that to him. He doesn't even know if it's true.
Right.
He just like wants.
He just needs to hear it,
which is heartbreaking.
It is. And then when BoJack says like, at least we could talk like this now before I wake up, and his dad is like, oh, you're not getting it.
Right. Wake up.
And then it slow zooms into the pool, and that was the third.
What are we up to? Third time. The third time I lost it in the 20 third time minutes, I lost my 30 shit. Minutes. So that was obviously the confirmation of like, you kind of thought this was coming, but here it is.
Yeah,
this is what's happening.
So there's the obvious where it's like
which I do kind of like. They didn't hold it out too long. They made it like very obvious what was literally happening.
Yeah.
Because I think maybe what I didn't like about the showstopper was I just felt like it lost me because it wasn't
It carried
grounded.
It out too much. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like I just want to be kind of grounded at a certain point, and anyway, I don't know. So
see, I think like
because I do think like from this point onward where you know what's happening, I was like, okay, now I'm in it. I'm really buying everything. Anyway, I don't know.
That's the thing, because I think Showstopper and Downer Ending both do similar things, but I like Showstopper better than Downer Ending.
I love Downer Ending.
See, I think I don't necessarily think it does it better, but I like that I like how it does it.
Okay.
Better than Downer Ending. There's parts of Downer Ending I really like. Like, I like BoJack picturing his life with Charlotte. I like instances like that. I have the opposite problem where I feel like Downer Ending wasn't grounded enough.
Wasn't grounded enough?
Are we going to fight?
No, we're not going to fight.
I think we should fight.
I don't know. We'll think about it more.
I have to rewatch both of them. I haven't watched both of them in a long time. I also just like Gina's song and Showstopper a lot.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, Secretariat and BoJack come back in, and Zach Braff, who is the comedic relief, who died in the fracking episode.
Yeah, in the underground episode, Jessica Biel, ate him, set him on fire and ate him or whatever. Yeah. Which is hilarious. I just thought this was very funny. And I love the part when he's, very slowly rolling backwards towards the door on his roller skates and just, making a bunch of puns about his name.
I love that.
I'm this is comedic genius. Thank you.
It is, you're right. And then, fourth time I lost my shit.
The poem.
The
titular poem.
The
View from Halfway Down. Which, I need to look more into how this episode kind of originated, because I mentioned in our last podcast that there was this alphabet game that Raphael wanted to complete and have each letter of the alphabet be like the beginning of an episode. So one of the ones they had left for the 6th season was V, and that sort of led to the View from Halfway Down being created, because they had this idea of this poem. I don't really understand how it like came together, but it was very much like part of the poem was very, very central to the reason why this episode exists. And it's good.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
This poem, both obviously it's about Secretariat's suicide jumping from the bridge, but it can also very much relate to BoJack, obviously.
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah.
And
which is, I think, why they did like the double casting with Secretariat and Will Arnett, so that it would be very clear that it's BoJack.
Yeah,
in this
exactly.
moment. Also, because Will Arnett
also voices it completely
well.
When,
on God, bro, we gonna get you an Emmy.
On God, bro, we gonna get you that Emmy.
God damn it, Will.
I know.
I just want to shake his hand, you know? I just want to say thank you, Will. Thank you for your service, Will Arnett. I'm getting choked up. I just have a lot of emotions about everything he put into this show. I'm gonna cry.
I know.
I'm thank you, Will Arnett. You did a really good job.
This performance
brought us on a fucking journey.
Oh
my God, I'm actually crying.
I think even besides the poem, he just does an amazing. Oh my God! I think he does an amazing job in this episode, because one of my favorite parts is when Herb is about to introduce the last person, and it's BoJack, and he has this very quiet no.
I mean, he is really he has this just amazing performance throughout the show, in the comedic way. Why am I so emotional?
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm just having a moment about how much I love the show, and it's over, and maybe it's hitting me in slow motion now.
I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, he just has this really, he's carried the show. It would not be the same without his voice kind of at the helm. So anyway, thank you. And this poem was such a great way to kind of send it out for him as an actor, to give him something that meaty, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
So,
and I think the whole thing is just when the door pops up and he says, "I'm not done." And then I change my mind, and then Herb says you have to find your peace, big guy.
Oh God. And I love that, because it's when push comes to shove, find your peace, you know?
Right. Oh,
I know you were just talking some big game about how you think peace is for chumps, but, you better find it, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, you better, because you don't get a choice anymore.
Right. It's no longer some theoretical concept of, what happens when you die. It's, real now.
Yeah.
And that is not, that's not, you're just talking with somebody. That's, it's here.
Yeah.
You better find your peace, you know? I like that a lot.
I also like the desperation from when he's almost there to death during his suicide. He's wait, shit, I changed my mind. I don't want to do this. I should have seen the view from halfway down. And that's just a lot.
Right. And having this kind of figure for BoJack, and to think again that this is BoJack kind of projecting on a Secretariat. He has no idea how Secretariat felt in that moment. No one does. No one will ever know, except for Secretariat. I just think that that's really a really, in this episode, obviously it's all in his head, but it's such an amazing and complex view of what's going on in his head, because there's so many different competing ideas, and that's just really real. Of he doesn't know what to think. He has a lot of different ideas, and he doesn't know what's right, because no one knows.
Right. All of them kind of yell at BoJack for a second. It goes through a horror thing where it shows Cracker Jack's gunshot. Beatrice is old again, and then Herb gets really big for a moment, and that genuinely scares me. I don't like Big Herb.
Big Herb isn't real. He can't hurt you.
Sit down, and it's so scary to me. I don't like that.
Sit down.
I'm no, go back
down,
to being
BJ.
small. I don't know why.
And then he just shrinks back down.
I don't know why it's so scary to me, but it's
I like the kind of elements of horror in this episode.
Oh, absolutely, especially towards the end. BoJack's kind of bargaining with Herb, and he's this is just your brain going through what it thinks it has to go through, and he's you might get out of the pool, you might not. Someone might come save you, they might not.
Yeah, the kind of he has left his life totally up to fate. Yeah, and the kind of idea he's having that I changed my mind moment, but it's
exactly
too late, BoJack.
Exactly.
So then the performance of I Will Always Think of You reprise.
Fifth time I lost my shit.
Yeah,
or
fifth time.
Fifth
or whatever
fourth,
we're up
I can't
to.
remember.
And I like, too, that it shows, like, Beatrice's dance that was referenced in Free Churro, but we haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I just like the trumpet, like, rendition of this. I thought was really, really nice.
I think it's also, going back, actually, I think it's kind of interesting how this is how BoJack remembers Beatrice, is, like, her younger in her kind of prime,
Yeah, like the way that she was when he was...
when he was a child.
Right. Oh, she did kind of look like that up to his, like, early 20s and whatever, and into his horsing around career. Yeah. But, yeah. Rather than the old kind of season version. 4 Beatrice, who we see, like, a brief, like, flash up. Yeah, it is kind of interesting that the like, states that characters appear in. Obviously, because Herb is in his, cancer.
Yeah, he's in his
self.
He's in his pre-cancer self.
So they're
he's
not
in
all
his prime state,
the way they were before they died.
Yeah. Which is interesting. Now that I think about it, because it's like, is that how BoJack wishes to remember them? Because then Sarah Lynn goes through every age.
Yeah, or like something about that is interesting.
Is it something?
Yeah.
Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, he never met Crackerjack, so he can only view him as how he's seen in pictures or in paintings, but...
Interesting.
Yeah, so anyway. So Beatrice and Crackerjack go through the door after her dance.
Yeah,
and then
I really like how that part's done.
I like that part as well, too. I like the little small moment where Beatrice's the
little
baton thing grabs Crackerjack's... I also like how they interacted in this episode. Yeah, I know it's hard to say whether or not it's really them or BoJack's projection, but it's really interesting, especially because it's like, oh yeah, they're siblings. Like that's her big brother.
So sweet.
It's sweet.
Her younger, older brother.
Yeah, her younger, older brother. And then Herb goes on a roast fest for BoJack.
Yeah, so this part, like, fucking slaps. He's like, y'all ready for the headline of the star horsing around, etc., etc. Son of Butterscotch and Beatrice, husband to no one.
Father to
no one, as far as we know. Stand-up comedian, actor, crippling alcoholic.
And a stupid piece of shit.
I'm like, oh, go off, Herb.
Oh, I know. That whole part is really
like, good. I was shaking. That was, like, 6th time I lost it. I was like, fuck.
Yeah,
oh, God, oh, fuck.
That part also made me realize how, like, little roles BoJack has had throughout the series.
Yeah, it's like, is this everything he's ever been in?
Well, I remember, like, in the 2007 flashback episode, they're still talking about, like, hey, BoJack, it's been a while since, horsing around. You think you want to get some other roles?
BoJack's like, no, I don't really like working.
Yeah.
It's not really something I vibe with.
I don't vibe. That's just not my vibe.
I've had, like, 5 jobs and I'm 50. Like, ever.
Yeah, he doesn't have a very really big filmography. He's no wonder he's only known as the horse from Horsing Around. Which is very funny that he hates that he was the horse from Horsing Around when he hadn't been in anything else.
He's something else. No, he loved that he was the horse in Horsing Around.
I know. Yeah, he loved it. Me? I am.
I'm sad.
I know.
And yeah, I mean, I like the kind of way that he confronts us. Like, he doesn't do any kind of performance. I mean, there's no one left to perform for at this point anyway. There's no audience.
Yeah.
And he just, like, walks right over to the door. And it's such a quiet, nice little exchange between them. He's like, is it terrifying? No, I don't think so. See you on the other side? Oh, BoJack. There is no other side.
Oh, BoJack.
Oh, BoJack. There is no other side.
This is it. Oh, yeah, and then, like, Herb says, like, the drip finally stops, referencing both his cancer and... I also really like BoJack trying to run from, like, the tar, because he wants to live.
He wants to live, and that's, like, oh, God, and it's like, he wants to live!
He wants to live!
And, like, he wants to talk to Diane. Okay, this... like fucking makes me cry. He just wants to talk to Diane so much. At the end of this episode, I'm like, he loves her so much.
He does.
I'm gonna cry again. Oh my God, are you kidding me? And then she's like, I live in Chicago, I can't save you. And then we get the reveal that he actually got out of the pool, tried to call her, and went back in the pool.
Yeah.
Which is like,
oh
God.
Which is like, there's a lot with that. There's a lot with him depending whether or not he stays out of the pool and just goes home and goes to sleep. Yeah. And that all depends on if Diane answers her phone, which is it just shows how toxic and how dependable he is and how that's so bad for both of them.
Yeah.
And I think
how dependent he is.
And I think it also kind of goes back to season 2 when Anna told the story about her being a lifesaver.
A lifeguard?
Lifeguard.
Yeah, and she says, like, there's some people you can't save because they'll thrash and they'll bring you down too. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And he's like, what does that have to do with me?
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite, like, dark comedic moments.
I know, same. But I think it's true, and it's just like, yeah, and it's just like how he makes Diane say, like, I live in Chicago and now I can't save you. And
like, this ending, like, her voice is so, like, gentle and calm. Also, Alison Brie, like, fucking killed it this season.
Yeah, she did.
And the whole show, like, she's amazing, incredible. And just the way that she delivers these lines at the end, they're kind of exchanged, like, it's so quiet, and it's just like, you know, how was your day? It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, my day was good.
Yeah. So then finally, the credits cuts off to a flatlining of a heart monitor.
Yeah.
But so the thing is, I think in a previous interview, Raphael has said how he hates how Netflix cuts off the credits. He doesn't like that it skips credits.
Yeah, especially because they do so many cool things with like song choices and the credits. And also, I'm sure they just want people to see the credits. Yeah,
who works on it.
Like there's that joke that Princess Carolyn makes about, like, we'll put their name on a vanity card and then the streaming services will automatically skip them so no one will see it.
So then, out of, like, a power move, Raphael puts the heartbeat coming back on the monitor right after Netflix would have cut away from the credits.
Yeah.
But
so if you were just having an autoplay, you would have gone to the next episode not having heard when it picks back up.
Whenever I watch BoJack, I automatically, like, if, like, I hear, like, the credit song is different, I automatically just leave the watch credits, and I was already so emotionally distraught after this episode, I just left the credits on, and then when the heartbeat monitor came back, I, like, lost it even more. I was just like,
yeah. And you were watching it before me, and you were texting me, but, like, without spoilers. So you were like, Jenny, for episode 11, you need to let the end credits play.
Yeah.
Do not auto skip the end credits. And I was like, okay. So then obviously when I got to it, I was like, oh, I'm pretty like, I think now I know what it's gonna be because you had warned me.
Yeah. But I was like, please do not skip the credits.
Yeah, because, like, that is such. I
think it just adds more to, like, the experience if you don't skip it.
Oh, for sure.
Because, I mean, like...
You get that moment where you're staring at your black screen and you're like, oh,
I had to, like, walk around my house for, like, 20 minutes after this episode. This episode is just amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's incredible. We talked about it for 50 minutes.
We did.
Good for us.
Good for us. There's
That's
a lot.
Extremely valid of us. All right. Last episode. Nice while it lasted.
So... it automatically starts with, like, the heart rate picking back up, or the heart monitor picking back up, which it has like the heartbeat, but then it goes back to the flat line. So it's kind of the reverse of the end where it went from the flat line to the thing. It goes from the beep, beep, beep to the flat line. And then it's like it's the last episode of Horsing Around, which I thought was a great callback. That is a great callback. Because
that was another kind of thing on the scoreboard of, like, BoJack is gonna die. Is that Horsing Around ended with the horse dying. So I loved calling back to that.
Which
is kind of
great,
a playful way too.
Well, what's so great about that, and, like, same with stuff like how, like, Secretariat committed suicide. That was another people.
Right, it's like he's different. He broke out of it.
Yeah, exactly. So
he
like
broke out of it.
So like not only does the crew, like, acknowledge that people have found these similarities and found these hints, they acknowledge it, but they're also like, yes, you were right. This is what we meant to point out. However, it's not going to happen.
Right, which I think makes so much more sense as, like, a narrative standpoint. Is, like,
I agree.
Rather than doing the kind of expected thing from everything that you're building on, to use it, but then, like, subvert it in this way.
Right, exactly. And it doesn't make your audience feel stupid. You feel super smart because you're like, yes, I picked up on all of these, but you're going to subvert it at the same time, which is super cool.
And I loved it because it was almost like so obvious that you didn't see it coming. You know what I mean? You're like, of course he's in the pool. Like, where else would this have gone?
Right, exactly.
Like, why was this not my, like, expectation?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I loved it.
I did too.
So, yeah, and then the beginning song, which for a while we both thought was just a real actual song, as they often use.
Yeah.
Because it fits the show so well, like the Why the Long Face song. Like, it's so perfectly fits the show that we're like, where did they find this?
Yeah.
Turns out it was made for the show.
Right.
So that's why.
I wish there was an extended version because I really like this song.
Goes
it
off.
slaps.
Give me the extended play.
The whole beginning montage is
really
funny.
Love the beginning montage. It's such a great way to kind of like immediately pick up kind of the mood of the episode.
Yeah.
Wrap up the sort of loose ends, get a lot of information and kind of time passage across in a quick way.
Yeah.
I really liked, kind of like the tonal shift here. And we got some kind of funny information, like the fact that Wanda was in another coma.
Yeah.
And just woken up like, Wanda, girl,
what you doing? Yeah, I like that little,
I guess this one was only like a couple years at most, though. But still.
That's still 2 for 2.
Yeah, I know. Like, what are you doing?
That's still 2 comas, Wanda.
Are you okay?
Also, BoJack's going to jail.
BoJack's in jail. I just also think is kind of hilarious.
BoJack go to jail
because
challenge.
Like people that are like, I want BoJack to take responsibility. I want him to be held responsible for his actions. I'm like, I wouldn't have done that.
Right, exactly.
But he's like literally in jail. Like, perfect. I love it.
Well, that's the thing, because like I said last time, like if BoJack had died, he would have escaped every single consequence that he should have get. So people who are saying like, oh, BoJack should have died, I don't understand those people because they're like, he should get punished. He can't get punished if he's dead. He becomes a martyr if he dies.
Him dying doesn't make any sense. Here, he's like, he has all this time to kind of, he has to think on his sins and try to rehabilitate and, better himself, what jail is supposed to be, but usually is not because our criminal justice system is fucked up. That's fine. That's neither here nor there.
That's neither here nor there.
But no, I think this is such a great ending. I'm like, perfect. I also love when he says like, well, officially it was for breaking and entering, but I feel like it was kind of for everything. Like kind of the way that he's viewing it of like, this is my, like, comeuppance. This is where I needed to be. It reminds me of the end of Crazy Oh my god! It reminds me of the end of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Not the end. I'm so right. Remember when I compared Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and BoJack?
I remember your video.
It's like the end of season 3 or something of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend where Rebecca's like, I will take responsibility and go to jail for this thing.
Does she go to jail?
Yeah.
I didn't finish Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. This is so funny.
I think she did. I think she really
goes to jail?
I'm trying to remember. I think she was in jail.
That's so funny.
I think she was like in actual jail for a period of time.
What?
I like vaguely remember this.
I stopped watching when that guy left.
Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Greg
left.
No,
I'm pretty sure. I remember her wanting to go to jail, and I feel like she did it for like a short period of time.
That's so funny.
So like, as I've been saying, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and BoJack are the same show.
The exact same.
They are thematically identical.
They kind of are. I think they both represent mental health in a very similar manner.
Yeah, and they both have really kind of similar tones. Anyway, I love Crazy Girlfriend. Okay, anyway.
So, Mr. Peanut Butter picks up BoJack from jail.
I love this scene between them because their relationship has not changed very much.
Yeah.
Like
except for maybe BoJack getting more of an understanding or
yeah,
tolerance.
Like he actually likes Mr. Peanut Butter now. I think is like the main like difference. Like Mr. Peanut Butter still treats BoJack the exact same as he's ever treated him.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hilarious. Yeah. After everything, he's like, you're just my buddy. Hey, is this a crossover episode? Like, he's like the same person. But then BoJack just has more kind of positive feelings towards Mr. Peanut Butter. And I just like that exchange of like, I will stick with you the whole time, even though obviously Mr. Peanut Butter does not.
Right.
So it was very sweet. I just thought this entire episode I loved to pieces. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
It just was such a perfect like wrap up for each of the main characters, and including for Mr. Peanut Butter. So. Oh,
I love the Elefino joke because I didn't catch that right away, and I think that's just so very funny.
I love the best thing that the BoJack writers like ever did was they would put in some small detail like only for the purpose of calling back to it later to make a joke that's like subtle enough that you could miss it but like absolutely hilarious. So like the Elefino joke is so good.
It's so funny. I like it a lot. So they go to the diner instead because BoJack doesn't know Mr. Peanut Butter bought that restaurant and renamed it. He doesn't know that.
Yeah.
He might have told him, but he can't remember. So they kind of hint at this wedding that BoJack is getting out for the weekend for, but they don't reveal who it's for until they're at the diner and they finally reveal it's Princess Carolyn and Judah's wedding. Good for her.
Mm-hmm. I know. Big.
And I really like this conversation they have where BoJack. Oh yeah, Mr. Peanut Butter's like, oh, did you think she would marry you? And he's like, no, I thought I wasted her best years. Mr. Peanut Butter's like, turns out her best years are now, which is...
Yeah, that's such a sweet kind of conclusion to have for Princess Carolyn.
It is.
And for any character. But especially her, since, like, that was kind of one of the first more somber notes that we had for her was on, like, her 40th birthday. Yeah. Which sort of has this sense of, like, you've reached this milestone and look where you are. Yeah. You're alone in your office and this isn't where you wanted to be. So it's really amazing that, like, a couple years later, she is in, like, such a better place that you never could have imagined. So
I just really like stories with characters that give a message where it's like, you're never too old to, like, find happiness.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna start you're never too old to, like, kind of change your life around and start working to where you want to be and to find the love that you deserve.
Yeah. It's very nice.
And I'll talk more about PC and Judah and their in PC's scene, but
and there's like during this scene there's like just a little thing in the background which is a billboard for the Firefly movie that shows that Gina and Courtney Portnoy are in it, so there's like a little bit of follow-up on like the Kelsey and Gina storyline. Hooray. Which is fine. I mean, I know people were like, why weren't they in this season more? And I'm also kind of like, I don't know. But that's fine. I don't care.
Kelsey and Gina walked so Vance Wagner could run, apparently.
Oh, God. Yeah, they're like, we're going to cut out Kelsey and Gina and put in Vance. Which is fine.
Sexism lives.
Then the perfect conclusion for Mr. Peanut Butter. I love when he makes those two jokes that are like, is my problem with women any movie directed by Christopher Nolan? Because yes, women are involved, but it's never really about the women. It's about me.
Which is like a very like good foil with BoJack as well, because they're both very codependent people.
Yeah, and the fact that they both ended up like alone. Yeah, like, they are like the like quintessential foils.
Yeah,
like,
they really are.
Yeah, it's incredible. Because they are so similar. They come from different backgrounds. Some other like YouTuber made a really good point that like Mr. Peanut Butter's role, especially in the early seasons, is to show like, here's somebody who's had the exact same career kind of background as BoJack, and he's not fucking miserable, so it's probably BoJack's fault.
Yeah.
Or, like, there's something else going on there. So you can't, like, write it off on that. So I really like seeing them kind of have these, like, parallel arcs.
I agree.
They go back to the observatory, which is obviously, like, a significant place in the series. And Mr. Peanut Butter unveils the new Hollywood sign.
I think this is very funny because the entire like Hollywood thing is like such a series critical joke, and
it's very fitting that it gets kind of like a new life in the final episode.
It's like a new life. That's the thing. It's like a new era for Hollywood.
A new olive. What am I saying? A new era. Olive? I don't know. A new olive
branch.
A brand new olive. No, a new era for Hollywood.
I like later when Princess Carolyn like already knows about it and she says it.
My favorite part of season 1 is when they do the Hollywood song.
Did they like edit it so it took out the D?
No, I'm sure they just like recorded something.
Oh, that's so funny.
But I'm just obsessed with that. When Todd is like, I guess there are new stories in Hollywood. I want to watch season 1 again. God, I'm gonna cry again. Okay. It's fine.
I also like when they get to the observatory, like, and the paparazzi comes up. BoJack immediately hides behind
the only two paparazzi that work in Hollywood.
Yeah, the birds.
This is very funny.
It is funny.
And obviously, Mr. Peanut Butter's favorite sign company fucks him over for one last time.
So when I first watched this, the sign company is like my favorite like ongoing joke, and how it's like always been like happy birthday Diane, please use a pretty font, like that's the whole time. So I thought when he unveiled
it is one word,
right? Yeah. I thought when he unveiled it would be that entire sentence he said, like, I want to give Hollywood the D or something, but then he just really the funny. B. And honestly, like, that's kind of a fair assumption for the sign company. Like, if you're gonna say D as in birthday dad, I think they're gonna
honestly
B.
They honestly this isn't their fault.
This time on them. This time it's not on them.
This time he shouldn't have tried to be clever.
Yeah, maybe.
It's especially saying like B and D sound very similar, especially over the phone.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying this is his fault.
Yeah.
To say I wanted to say D as in birthday dad, I probably would have written down B too.
I probably would have too.
Yeah.
So Mr. Peanut Butter, just like every single one of his dates at the Halloween parties, tells BoJack that he will stay with him at the party. Mr. Peanut Butter and BoJack is still endgame. I was right. Everyone can congratulate me.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How does it feel to have a huge brain?
They are roommates, and it's implied that BoJack will probably go back to Mr. Peanut Butter's house when he gets out of jail.
Oh my god, a post-canon, and they were roommates. Slow burn.
Yes.
Mr. Peanut Butter, BoJack,
I fucking
fanfiction.
called it. Thank you. BoJack and Mr. Peanut Butter endgame.
Then we get a BoJack and Todd send-off, and I love the Todd scene. I love Todd this entire season.
Yeah.
Which I haven't been that crazy on Todd for
I've had a breakup
for
with
2
Todd
seasons.
for
Really
2
since
seasons.
season 3, I was like, what are you doing? What are you about? You're not really part of the main crew anymore.
Yeah.
So I really love Todd this season. I feel like they finally kind of brought him back into the mix of the main plot and giving him some kind of meatier things to do and more interesting things to do. And I just loved this final scene so much. It was so funny and so cute and such a perfect send-off for Todd. Yeah, I also love that all the jokes that his friends make about him being in jail.
Oh yeah.
And Mr. Peanut Butter's like, okay, Shawshank,
yeah, and he's like, oh, did you go to jail for being a bad listener?
It's so good.
I just like the little thing that Todd drags BoJack out to the beach, and he's like, you looked like you were getting stressed from the party, so I made you come outside, which is really cute.
Sweet.
And it's very sweet.
Yeah, they're kind of in an okay place, which is nice. They're not going to be as close as they were, but they're still, gonna have some kind of relationship, which is nice.
Yeah.
And then he kind of references his own time in jail, and he's like, how did you get out? Did a helicopter crash into the prison and then you just sort of walked out? BoJack's like, what?
Does BoJack even know Todd went to jail?
I don't know, honestly.
I can't remember. I feel like Todd rubbed it in his face at one point. He definitely writes it on the board.
Yeah, so he wrote it on the board of sins, so at least I would have loved if that was the first time he told him, and he was like, wait, what do you mean I left you in jail?
Yeah.
And he was like, I tried to call you.
I called you 5 times.
So many times.
Which is very funny. Yeah, and BoJack's whole conversation with Todd and how jail is working for him now, but he's scared when he leaves, what if I relapse again? And Todd is like, then you'll get sober again.
Right, which is a very interesting place for him to be in, because obviously, jail is just kind of another rehab for him. He wanted to stay in rehab so he could feel kind of he had structure and he didn't have to be responsible for his own happiness. I can't even be responsible for my own breakfast. I'm just a person who quotes BoJack now.
Yeah.
And
you know that tweet from the official BoJack Twitter that's like, oh, you like BoJack? Say everything I've ever said, and I'm like, trust me, I do.
I know. I'm like, I do. I have.
Worry.
I quote BoJack constantly. It's exhausting. What was I saying?
How he uses jail as another rehab.
Oh yeah. So it's nice to see him kind of confront that and the idea that he might relapse again. That's very possible. And then Todd is like, you'll just get sober again and you'll set a new record and it's fine. Life goes on.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the idea that if he messes up again or if he stumbles again, he'll just get back up again.
And I have a fucking bone to pick. We're gonna start picking bones now with people who are like, BoJack didn't change at all. He's in the same place he did at the beginning. I'm like, what? I want you to go back and watch season 1 and tell me that BoJack didn't change at all. What the fuck are you talking about? He has changed so much, and it's just been really subtle.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's it's a subtle character
The idea
change.
that he can let Princess Carolyn go, that he can kind of let his friends go, he can let Diane go.
Yeah.
He can kind of take responsibility and be in prison. And there are things that he says in this episode that show that he's still the same person, which is he's not gonna completely change. That's not really realistic, but he's striving and he's working, and that's the important part. It's not about changing who you are. It's about just doing better things.
Right. And I think that's the thing people don't realize, and that's why they say BoJack doesn't change as a character or as a person, because his change as a character is so realistic to changing as a person and getting better. Is you're gonna fuck up a couple of times. You're gonna stumble a couple of times, and you're not gonna change as a person. You're just gonna do better things.
Yeah, start acting better, and then you'll become better because you are the things that you do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's I don't know, and I think it's unfair when people are like, well, BoJack's still the same shitty person, he's just gonna fuck up again, and I'm like...
yeah, I think that's sort of the point.
Everyone does.
Right, he's not gonna be perfect for the rest of his life, and that's not the note that
and I don't think
I thought the show was gonna end on.
Right, and I think it's just as bad to say, and then BoJack was perfect forever, because that also gives a bad message of, like, well, I fuck up, what am I gonna do now? Like, it's like, the message is like, you're gonna mess up now and again, but you need to get back up.
And it is this kind of...
set up a new record.
Yeah, it's kind of this rejection of sort of the idea of, like, a narrative structure that I think is very predictable coming from the show that has always been really kind of groundbreaking in the way that it, like, tells the story. Is the idea that, like, it didn't have this, like, final ending. Like, it was sort of open-ended. Like, you know, he didn't die. He's also not perfect. There's like, potential. There's more life.
Right.
Because... there's always a day after the happy ending, guys.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah, this is pretty much exactly the note that I was expecting, like, the series to end on. Yeah. So I loved it, and I'm right, and I will take the W.
Yeah. Isn't it the L?
No, because I won.
Oh.
I didn't lose. Oh. I'm taking the W.
Oh, is that what that means?
What did you think take the L meant?
I don't know. I thought it was just some weird-ass meme people had. I didn't know it actually meant something.
I love this for you. I love that you're just learning what take the L means.
I didn't know that's what it meant.
Yeah. So I will take the W.
All right. I think you will. No, I mean, I'm gonna say it. If you think BoJack should have just died at the end, or if you, like, refuse to accept this episode and you think you don't have empathy for people who are addicts. I'm just gonna say it. Yeah,
I think that's part of it. I mean, I understand people who are really harsh on BoJack.
I understand it, but I also think there's a lot of people who watch the show who relate to aspects of BoJack.
I just think some of those people might themselves be addicts, so I don't think I would go that far.
No,
but
well, that's the thing though. I think a lot of people who are addicts relate to BoJack, and I think it's better to see a show that shows a character who has addiction problems, who has mental health problems, not necessarily get completely better, but work towards better.
I agree. Yeah. I think my beef with these people is that they don't understand how stories work.
Yeah, that's true too.
And how fiction works. Because I'm like, honestly, what did you think? Like, how is this like
there's no satisfaction if BoJack dies.
I know. I'm like, what did you think? Like, what do you think fiction is for? Like, honestly.
Right.
You just want to feel shitty?
Right. That's the thing. It's like, this never was a show that...
Yeah,
like, every single season ends on a happy ending, on a high note.
Right. It would have been absurd for this to end in, like, just a hopeless...
I would have been kind of pissed.
I would have been incredibly pissed.
I would have been very disappointed.
Yeah. But I knew that they wouldn't do that to me.
Yeah, because I
know how stories work, and I've been paying attention for 6 seasons. Eat my ass! People that think BoJack died, and people out there think that this final episode was like a hallucination or like purgatory after BoJack died.
After the literal purgatory episode?
I literally despise that interpretation like so much. It like boils my blood. I'm so angry.
You are very angry right now.
I'm so mad. I think that some people think that this episode was like closure and like BoJack making amends with all his friends. And I did not see it that way at all. Like, I thought it was a really satisfying ending, and it gave closure in a sense. But I don't understand how you could watch this and think that he's making amends with his friends.
It's more like...
He has a nice, like, send-off, but, like, he's never going to see Diane again, most likely. Like, you know, Princess Carolyn isn't going to work with him anymore. Like, there are very, like, permanent ways that his life has changed. And, like... he's in jail. Like, I don't understand, like, this as a BoJack, like, final hallucination, like, you know, fantasy of, like, what I wished I could do to get closure. Like, it doesn't really make sense.
It does feel like closure with each of the main cast characters, but in the sense where BoJack is kind of setting them off and he's okay with that. Or, like, even, like, characters like Todd and Mr. Peanut Butter, I think he'll still, like, talk to.
For sure.
But I don't think it'll be as dependable. Yeah. And Princess Carolyn. Yeah. But it's not as, like, I am literally dependent on you. If you do not answer me, I will die. Like, it's not to that extent anymore.
Yeah, that's the kind of relationship that he shouldn't have.
And I've seen some people interpret it as it's so sad because he lost his entire support system. But I don't think that's the case either.
Yeah.
I think it's more like his support system needs to be able to grow without BoJack, and BoJack also needs to be able to grow on his own as an individual. He needs to be, like,
healthier about the ways that he depends on other people.
Right, exactly. Because I think it's okay to have, like, support, but I also think you need to... There's a dangerous line, especially with mental health, where you depend on people way too much.
Yeah, and that becomes very clear with Diane, obviously, how he was like, I'm gonna kill myself if you don't come back.
Exactly.
Which is, like, not the kind of relationship that anyone should have or be in.
Which is a very realistic relationship, and it's very... It's harmful to every party involved.
Yeah, definitely. So, anyway, that's the little version of that rant that I hadn't even considered that interpretation, and it just made me so angry. I know, like, oh, like, the death of the author, but, like, Raphael has, like, said that, like, no, BoJack isn't dead, and I just don't get how that's a satisfying conclusion.
It's not.
And I'm like, why do you want that?
I don't think ending your series, your 6-season-long series, on the note that your main character, who we watch struggle and get better and struggle some more and try to still get better, die, is a satisfying note to end on. It's not. And it's, like I said before, BoJack dying at the end frames his life differently. I think if he died, the media would have ignored everything he did wrong, or most of it, and been like, oh my god, look, he was so sad. Sad horse, sad dog.
Sad horse.
Sad Keanu. Yeah. And
exactly.
It becomes a different meaning.
He would have become like a hero.
His legacy lives on.
Yeah. Right. So he doesn't really get that, like, reward.
Yes,
you know?
Yes, you don't get the reward of killing yourself.
Yeah, you don't get that.
You need to keep living.
You need to suffer a little bit more.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. And I think that kind of carries back to the very last line that's like, life is shit and then you die. No, sometimes life is shit and then you keep on living.
Life's a bitch.
Life's a bitch. Yeah, I couldn't remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we talked about Todd a little bit. I just really like that. Oh, and there's also that line when Todd says, but isn't the point of art less so people put into it and more people get out of it? Or maybe art doesn't need a point. That's why it's called art. Oh, yeah. I just adore this because obviously it's, like, very meta about, like, what the show is and what they're trying to do, because I do think that BoJack has this really kind of, like, not a prescriptive approach, but more of, like, we're just gonna lay everything out on a table and kind of let the audience, like, figure out what they want to do with it and just, like, start some conversations.
Right, and I think that's kind of the best way to present stuff.
Show a slice of life and different views and different people and different stories, which I think that's really cool. So that was
I also really like the line Todd talks about his mom a lot, and how, like, now that he has her back in his life, he doesn't know how to interact with her as a mother, or even if he kind of needs a mother. And I kind of like this whole episode kind of, like, is about, like, your relationship with your friends and with people close to your life, and when those relationships change, how do you formulate them, and what kind of person they become, and what role they supposed to serve in your life, kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's, I don't know, I really like that kind of
sentiment. Like, the idea that, like, you know, Princess Carolyn isn't going to be his agent anymore, so, like, what are they?
Right, exactly. And if, like, you're not going to be my...
Todd's not his roommate anymore, and what are they?
Diane's not going to be his super dependent best friend anymore. What is she going to be?
They're, like, you know, moving on in those ways that there's, you know, growing pains, and it's...
Right, exactly.
It's, like, awkward and uncomfortable, so...
Right.
I like it. Then a scene between BoJack and Princess Caroline. I know that there was some complaints too of, like, we didn't even see Judah on his wedding day.
Well, it's not his real wedding.
It's not. Yeah, first of all, it's actually not their real wedding. This is their industry wedding, and I don't care.
So,
like, I love Judah, but, like, the episode isn't about Judah. It's about, like, it's very, like, from the perspective of, like, BoJack.
Yeah.
And I think, like, he's not involved in their lives in that way, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he's not even, like, a personal friend anymore because he wasn't invited to the personal friend wedding.
Right. Well, that's the thing, and I think also this whole episode isn't about, like, the minor characters. This episode very much actually being, like, the complete opposite of the last episode of the first part of the season.
Yeah, quick one while he's away.
Yeah, which was just completely all about side characters or characters we haven't seen in a long time. This one's completely about just the main which is 5.
Which is perfect. Like,
which
we're
is
gonna...
perfect.
Like, I wouldn't have wanted any screen time to be detracted from, like, the main characters and their kind of relationships with BoJack, and wrapping those things up, I think, was perfect. Loved it.
I agree.
Loved it. They could have shown Judah May walking by in the background, but whatever. They talked about him. He's doing paperwork. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine, you guys.
It's fine.
You know what he would look like in a suit anyway. Like, he would look the same. You just have a suit on.
Yeah,
also... He wears a suit every day. Like, what do you mean? Oh, I want to see him on his wedding day. You know what he looks like.
We've seen some PC side boob, and you guys are thinking about Judah?
I know. Like, what are you complaining about?
Judah's hot, but let's get a closer look at that boob.
Yeah. PC looks great.
Let's talk about PC.
One of the things that people cite for why they think that BoJack hasn't changed is the way that he starts talking to Princess Carolyn in this scene, where he's like, oh, I didn't realize that maybe I could still get work in the industry, like maybe I should think about that more, and he kind of starts making all these plans for after he's out of jail.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it's not like he never, like, you know, he can be an actor again, like, he can continue to do this work.
Yeah.
And I just think it's good to have something that's still, like, you know, recognizable about who he is. Otherwise, It doesn't really feel real. Like, his progress wouldn't feel real if he wasn't still the same person underneath.
Right, exactly.
And the things that you can't really change about the way that you are.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm like, and I don't think that's, like, a bad thing for him to be thinking that way, you know? I also like what Princess Carolyn says about, like, you know, people have short memories. That's the best and worst thing about people.
I like BoJack's whole, when BoJack and PC dance, and I like how it kind of brings back to BoJack thinking something will happen at the wedding, but he thinks it'll be like a sitcom disaster, because again he views do you remember BoJack views life as TV, because that's all he knows, and then he realizes, oh, this is just a normal wedding,
right? And he has this idea of, like, you need to have some kind of grand, you know, gesture to kind of get some narrative closure on his relationship with Princess Carolyn. It's just very cute. He's like, you know, it would be a symbol of how much I've grown, like, that I could let you know, or let you go. And but he still manages to do that, just in a more quiet and real way, like, show that, like, he's here, he has let her go, like, right. And I like it.
And how he says, like, it's a better story if you would have gotten cold feet, and Princess Carolyn says it would have been a better story for you. Yeah. And kind of, again, like, BoJack isn't the main protagonist here.
Right, like, he sees himself as like the main character, everyone else is kind of the side characters.
Right,
so he's exactly. Like, well, you know, this is what your wedding means to me, but she's like, oh, I don't care what my wedding means to you.
Which I think also carries back to,
not
like,
a part of my wedding.
Why it's so important that we don't see characters like Judah, because while BoJack was in jail, everything else was moving along. Like, Princess Carolyn got married, you know, she's getting better.
Right.
Mr. Peanut Butter was going to therapy.
Yeah, you really get a sense of, like, people are just continuing with their lives.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't necessarily, just because we don't see it with BoJack doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important. I also really like this introspection with Princess Carolyn, kind of wrapping up her entire character arc on how she's afraid if she says, I'm afraid of getting too comfortable, that this could be the best thing that ever happened to me, and if it doesn't make me as happy as I'm supposed to be, then I'm a lost cause. Both referencing how, like, she's been wanting this for so long, and kind of referencing back to Diane and saying how her character arc about her not being happy and she's not doing real good in the world, and this idea of, like, a sense of happiness, and when are you happy, and maybe you can't be chasing a happiness for a long term, but more, like, on a day-to-day basis. Right,
yeah, because then he's like, you know, don't worry about whether you'll be happy, you know, later, and just focus on that you're happy right now.
Right.
And like, I love what he says, like, at some point Princess Carolyn thought this was a good idea. I think we should listen to her, so.
I think, because she's the smartest woman I know. I know.
Very sweet. So, yeah, I love that kind of, there's a lot of really strong overarching themes in BoJack, but one of maybe the, like, top 3 is definitely the idea of, like, fleeting, like, momentary happiness versus this sort of idea that we want of, like, long-term deep happiness, and what does it mean to be happy, and people get so stressed out about, like, am I happy, like, what's going on, like, instead of just, like, understanding that it's more of a temporary thing and it always, like, will be, and you don't need to freak out anytime you're not happy.
Yeah, I agree.
Or worried that, like, you know, when you're happy, it's going to go away, it's going to leave.
Right.
And that theme, like, really came through in this final episode in ways that I just thought were beautiful.
I agree. And then going back to, like, Princess Carolyn's whole arc about, like, taking care of other people and not really herself, but finally she's letting people take care of her. specifically Judah, and that's why I think them as a couple really works.
Yeah, and I like her plot that she had decided to have a child on her own and do it, herself.
Yeah.
And then she still found love, later.
Yeah.
I think that's really nice.
You know what I think is also kind of interesting is I think Princess Carolyn and Judah kind of exemplified that idea where we met at a different time, but the time we met, we couldn't be together because it wasn't the right time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean? Yep.
Because I think at that time, Princess Carolyn was still very much struggling, especially with having a child, and at the time she was with Ralph, and she was still very much struggling.
Yeah, she was. I totally forgot she was actually with Ralph at that.
She was with Ralph because Judah's the one who set them up. Ooh, look at that. Remember? Because he set up 3 dates for her.
Right.
I am.
Juicy.
Look at that irony.
The drama. Ralph is like, God damn it.
Ralph's invited to the wedding.
Honestly, poor Ralph. Princess Carolyn adopted a child, and she was like, I'm not going to do that. And then she, marries some other guy, and he's just like,
well, that's the thing, because I think even if Princess Carolyn met Ralph because she met... When she worked with Judah,
again later on,
but still at that time she was struggling with letting other people help her or take care of her.
That was the reason why she fired Judah
in the first place.
She broke up with Ralph. So yeah, it's that kind of culmination of I'm afraid of letting someone take care of me because my whole identity is I'm the person who takes care of people and things and myself.
Right.
And I'm very independent and everything. So
right, exactly.
I like that. Good for her.
Good for her.
And then we see that they're not gonna work together again because BoJack says oh I'm gonna need an agent again if I'm back working, and she's like, I can recommend some great people. So I really like that conclusion, and he obviously just completely accepts her boundaries, and that's really nice.
Yep.
Good.
I like it.
Good for her. Good for them. They're going to see each other again, probably not as much, and they're not going to have that intense relationship, but...
Right, exactly.
It's fine. It'll be good.
Yeah. So then, the BoJack and Diane scene, which is a full 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's almost half the episode. It's a good, at least a little more than a third of the episode.
Yeah.
And I just love this because, their relationship is so meaningful, and it's sort of the heart of the show in a way, and it's also, the bookends of the show because, it starts... when they come into each other's lives in episode 1.
Yeah.
And it ends when they leave.
Yeah.
When, the last time that they're probably going to see each other.
Yeah.
And I just think that's amazing. I just think that's really nice. I think that's beautiful. And it's kind of a good way to kind of end cap their lives. And this scene, it just destroyed me. So it kind of starts with, a... classic BoJack and Diane argument about Vance Wagner, and she's like, I'm not going to help you work through whatever you're trying to work through.
Yeah.
And I like the way that each of these 4 scenes kind of shows the way that BoJack interacts with these people and what he expects from them.
Yeah.
And kind of the ways that they
kind of deter away from his expectation. Yeah.
Yeah. But also not completely. There's still the same people, they still have kind of the same dynamics, but there's just all this weight behind it because of how much they've been through at this point.
I really like this nod where they're quiet for a moment after Vance Wagner, and Diane says, I wish I had my phone, and BoJack says, I never know what to do with my hands at parties, which is a direct reference to the very first episode. Diane says that to BoJack at his party. Yeah. Oh, also he's eating cotton candy earlier in the wedding party, referencing that ongoing joke.
Yeah, so that's cute, and it's clear that BoJack is purposefully referencing that too because of the way that he smiles.
Yep, exactly.
Which is just very sweet.
And Diane's like, nope, I am trying to be
she's
serious.
No, I'm actually really upset with you.
Yeah.
So then we get this kind of reveal that he had left a voicemail for her and what exactly he said to her. And as we kind of mentioned before, it's this very, manipulative and toxic thing where he's call me back if you don't want me to go swimming, otherwise I'm going to assume that you don't care.
Right.
I'm going to get back in the pool.
Right.
So that's obviously... That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's
and it's
not good.
And even Diane kind of brings back the conversation she has with BoJack before she goes to Chicago.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And she's like, I need to know you'll be okay if I'm gone. And BoJack even says that's not a friendship, that's a hostage situation.
Yeah.
And I think that's really again shows how realistic the growth in this show is BoJack himself says that, and yet he goes back on that when he relapses again.
Right. Yeah. Because it's one thing to know that
he's
in a moment when you're doing okay, and I can let you go, and then like when things get bad, it's
right, exactly.
You just kind of go back to it.
Exactly.
So it does show like this is a relationship that probably has not really been built to last,
right,
and is probably going to be not one that they can continue having.
Exactly. And then we kind of see like Diane's not interpretation, but like her kind of guilt with it.
Yeah.
And she feels selfish for believing him, and how she kind of feels like she made BoJack promise that he would be okay.
Right.
And again, this kind of shows BoJack's growth, because he says that's not your job to save me, and yet Diane fires back with, why did you always make me feel like it was?
Yeah, which is so true. Like, he's always really put these like expectations and sort of put her up on this pedestal, and like looked up to her in this way of who he thought she was,
right, and
how much he admired her, but how that also like put this burden on her, and how he always just wanted her approval. That kind of comes through in the beginning when he talks about like, you know, Vance Wagner with her, because he's just always been like, since the very beginning, he's always been so like desperate for her approval.
I need you to tell me I'm a good person.
I fucking know, because like he just admires her like her moral compass and the way that she like navigates the world, and I just love that. And like the thing that hurt him the most about her book was that that's the way that she saw him.
Yeah.
So God, yeah, this relationship is just it means a lot to
right.
It's a lot. And yeah, I like what she says, like, you know, I don't know, maybe it's everyone's job to save each other.
Right.
Again, Alison Brie, the voice acting.
Oh my god.
When. Then there's the reveal that Diane and Guy are married now. So that's nice. Good for them. I know, for a second I was like, no, they broke up.
I know, which is, I really like, because there's like this short instance where BoJack asks about Chicago, and you can kind of see in Diane's face where she's like, you know what, I'm gonna be kind of mean for a second and make him think he ruined my relationship.
I know, love that for her,
which is good for her.
And I like when she says, like, you know, it's all me about kind of these different, like, you know, who she was in LA, who she is now in Houston, and in this relationship. And like, I think of all the characters, Diane has changed and grown the most, which like really comes through in the end that we're going to talk about in a minute if I don't start crying.
Right.
Which I will definitely start crying. Like, and that's why she needs to move on and like leave him, is like because she's outgrown him in this way, but it's like because of him that she's outgrown him. But
I feel like before she's like kind of referenced how like she has like these different moods of herself, and she kind of dislikes those parts of herself, but when, of course, obviously, this has a lot to do with also her going on antidepressants, but she's kind of like, she kind of looks at it, like, not gleefully, but she's like, it's all me. It's okay.
Right, yeah, she's very much come to terms with...
Right, exactly.
...with that. And I just love the kind of, you know, similarities between this, that they were both kind of worried that something would happen at the wedding.
Right,
and they both have this, like, you know, tendency to like drama. And he asks her, like, do you ever miss the mess? And she's like, a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I love that for them. And they both just love, you know, fiction so much, which I think, you know, really goes to this, and they want to view their lives this kind of grand, like, narrative way.
Yeah, I mean, that's something Diane struggles with throughout this entire season with writing her book, because she doesn't know how to articulate her trauma, and she very much like BoJack views life as a media, because she also grew up on TV, because she had
she was also raised by television.
Right, exactly, which is a lot.
Right.
So
it's very sweet. And then we get to, like...
I can't say this. I'm gonna, like, start crying.
I will say it. Because I love, like, of all of the notes that this show could have gone out on... Well, there's sort of two wrapped up in here.
Yeah.
It's this fucking flawless. So she says, there are people in your life who help you become the person you're meant to be. And you can be grateful for them, even if they weren't meant to be in your life forever. And then she says, I'm glad I knew you too. And he says, knew, huh? Past tense. So you get this, it's like, it's just a beautiful sentiment that means so much, like, in the context of the show, and especially with how much, like, Diane has grown, which is why she says to him, thank you.
Right.
Because, like, because of him, she's grown into this person who is so much more confident and sure of herself, and, like, who can now, like, move on and have to have this better life. So it's just, yeah, and every time I watch, like, the, you know, thank you, and it's going to be okay, and I'm sorry, and thank you. Every time I watch this episode, that specific part, and I probably watched it like 5 times, it makes me cry. Like, Jesus Christ, it's so good, and the way that kind of, like, the musical, like the music notes there.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah, the whole scene, the whole scene with as soon as BoJack goes onto the roof, there's no background music at all. Kind of some crickets, but there's like, there's a music note when BoJack says, "Wouldn't it be funny if we never talked again?"
Yeah, and it kind of goes into that.
And then there's a final music note when Diane's about to leave again, and BoJack says, "Hey, can I tell you a funny story?" And then it kind of swells into like another like nice little musical note into the background,
which is very sweet,
which I think fades into the song at the end.
It's just, I don't know, it's very sweet that he's like, I just want to tell you like a funny story like one last time.
I'm gonna cry again. I know. Well, and it's like this sentiment, I love this sentiment that like leaving friends and leaving relationships that were so detrimental to you is hard, but you can be grateful for it.
Do you mean detrimental?
Yes.
That's like what I said. Bad.
Oh, wait.
Because detrimental would mean, like, it harmed you.
No. Wait, okay. That's not what I meant. No,
Do you mean
I meant,
important to you?
Yes. Okay. I don't know the meaning of that
word. That's okay. I was just like, I want to clarify what you're trying to say.
Doesn't that mean important?
No, it means it harmed you in, like, a bad way.
Well, I mean, some of these relationships did.
Right. I mean, I think that, it is. Well, you could argue that.
But yeah, and I think the thing is, like, the point is, like, leaving relationships like that and then, like, but being grateful that they happened in the first place and just being able to move on is very important.
It's a really nice like sentiment to go out on. And then like the final, couple lines here are kind of the other major theme that's going on that also, ties into this idea of like fleeting happiness when they say like, it's a nice night, huh? Yeah. This is nice. Just the last line being like, yeah, this is nice is like, it means so much to me because BoJack as a person has never been able to accept when he's happy in a moment. Yeah. Like, he always rejects that. It always freaks him out. He's had to kind of learn over and over again that, like, you're not going to be happy forever.
Yeah.
And you're going to have ups and downs. So for him to just sit, for them to sit in that moment together and just, oh my God, I'm going to cry and enjoy... I'm crying. And to enjoy that moment together for like one last time, it has to be the last time.
You're literally crying right now.
Listen.
I know. And
I don't cry, like, as a rule.
I know.
Oh my God, it's really
Are you really okay?
Good. Yeah, I'm fine, dude. It's okay.
Yeah. No, and I agree.
How are you not crying?
I don't know.
You should be crying.
Oh, Jesus. Is that a threat?
I'm just like, okay, it's fine, just be in this with me.
I'm trying.
I'm gonna have tears, like, streaming down my face.
You really do.
I really do, so...
Drink your kombucha and maybe you'll calm down.
Maybe you'll calm down. Like, I just love it. It's such a good ending, and I love how long, like, the final shot kind of, like, drags on with them.
Yeah.
Like, it just keeps going, and I remember watching that, and I was also, tears were streaming down my face.
Yeah.
But I was also just, like, smiling, because it's such a nice moment.
It really is.
Oh my God, am I okay?
No. I can tell you're not.
No, I'm fine. I just have a lot of emotions.
We have been talking for 100 minutes.
This is also probably the only, like, 4th time Rissa's ever seen me cry.
Yeah.
Wait, maybe only 3rd.
Third?
Yeah, so this is significant, guys. I don't cry. Like, I'm not a crier.
You don't.
Oof. And
are you okay?
Yeah, dude, I'm fine.
Okay. Jesus.
There's a lot of emotions, okay?
You say as I have tears streaming down your eyes.
Well, yeah, no, that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm just feeling a lot. It's good.
I know you are.
The show unrepressed my emotions. Thank you, Raphael.
Raphael made me feel, like,
I'm
literally.
Feeling things for the first time in, like, 4 years. My
feelings aren't blocked off. Bye, Casey.
Yeah, so I love that. I love that ending note of, like, this is nice. We're just going to sit in this moment. We're not going to worry so much about what's coming next.
Right. And I think that's the thing is, like, it kind of ties back to, like, happiness is fleeting, or, like, the kind of idea of, like, you can't worry about whether or not. I mean, it kind of goes back to what Diane says, like, when BoJack asks, like, how do you trust it? The happiness.
Yes.
And she's like, I didn't, but I learned to trust him.
Yeah, yeah. So they have that same issue too, you know, BoJack and Diane.
You know, it's kind of interesting because Diane kind of has the opposite issue where, while BoJack and Mr. Peanut Butter both are too dependent on people, Diane wasn't dependent enough on people.
Yeah.
How she has that conversation with Mr. Peanut Butter, how she never viewed it as an us.
Yeah. Her thing was she had to not, like, push people away when she got, like, scared or into deep or whatever. So, final ideas? Notes? Thoughts?
I think being able to watch this show while it was airing was very important.
Yeah.
I think I don't think there's gonna be a show like BoJack.
Yeah, I mean the show is so unique and
it's so unique and it's so powerful.
Yeah.
And it's so meaningful to a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like it's just a good show, and I really have appreciated being able to watch. I mean, I watched it initially shortly after the 3rd season came out.
Yep, and then you made me binge the whole thing. It.
So we had watched the 4th, 5th, and 6th season like when together, they aired.
Yeah.
Which was really fun.
The 4th season premiered when I was out of the country too. Actually, I remember watching it in England. Yeah. So, yeah, I will always, like, there are just, like, certain things about watching this show that I will always remember and cherish, so that's very special. I will always think of you.
I will always think of you, BoJack Horseman.
Think about BoJack.
Show. As a show, and just, I mean, I know that none of them are listening, but, like, just so much gratitude for everyone who was involved in creating the show, like, all of the actors and all the writers and creators and artists and animators. It's, like...
No, there's so much.
They did a really good job.
There's so much passion in it. I think it was time for it to end. Yeah, but I'm totally okay with it having ended. Yeah, there wasn't a moment of my mind. There wasn't a doubt in my mind that I was gonna be like, oh God, I hope the ending's good, because I was like, God, I know these writers. They're so good. Right. Yeah. I was like, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure what's gonna happen, but I'm sure that I am in good hands. Like, exactly. I was like, I'm sure whatever happens, I'm gonna. And that's very rare where you're like have 100% trust in the content creators, and I don't know if it's because I'm like, wow, they're just really good writers, and they are, or if they tick every box of mine, and their taste, and my taste is just excellent. Oh, I get what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because they're just like the show is just sort of perfectly aligned to your taste. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's both. I think, like, you know, obviously there's like a lot of talent and care. Right. That's gotten in the show, like, to the point that it's kind of become a running joke in the show, like, the amount of continuity that they put into things. Yeah. But also just the fact that I think that the way that this show views the world and views life is, like, something that just vibes with me. Right, same. I just vibe on it. And you know what's so frustrating, though, is I know so many people who are like either, oh, I tried it and I couldn't get past the first few episodes, and I'm like, can you please get to at least the telescope? And Come to my house, I will pay you, I will give you food, and we'll watch up to the telescope, and then you can tell me. Because I actually, when I first started, Jenny was like, you have to watch the first few episodes with me, and I was like, Jenny, I don't like this. Right, and I was like, you were sitting down with me, you're watching it with me, because I need you to watch up to a certain point. Yeah. Because I know that you'll like it. Yeah. And there's other people who are like, oh, I just can't get past the art style. I know. I hate that. They're like, it's so ugly. I'm like, shut up. Like, you're ugly. Life is ugly. What do you want? And it's like, what do you want from me? We have like Big Mouth and Family Guy walking around, and you think BoJack's ugly? BoJack or Big Mouth? BoJack. Yeah, but I don't think BoJack's ugly at all. I'm like, it's fine. I think there's a lot of... one of my favorite design aspects is actually BoJack himself. His coloring looks like it's like a watercolor aspect, and I love that. Yeah, like the watercolor look, I think, is really nice, and they use that a lot. You know what other show is amazing and everyone says they can't get past the ugly art is Mob Psycho. You guys are cowards! I know, honestly. Like, y'all are just cowards! You guys have bad taste. You need to grow the fuck up. You think you have a specific idea on how you think art should look, and so you won't give good in a series a second chance. I think a little bit of ugliness. I like it because it's like... It adds character. It adds character. It adds a unique, like, value. We talked about this, like, ad nauseum in our Mob Psycho series. Yeah.
like just an absurd amount because like that's such a consistent, especially with the manga complaining as well as
absolutely.
Psycho 100. Is that like it's just ugly? It's like no, it has character, it has emotion, like it's raw, it's real. I like it. I don't want it to be pretty.
Yeah, exactly. Like you want it to look like every other single piece of media in its like like
I also just
genre.
think that, and I just think that there are shots of BoJack that are like breathtakingly gorgeous.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know what you're saying.
Right.
Same with Mob Psycho. I'm like, this show's beautiful. I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. Fuck off.
Like, you just have really bad taste. I don't know how to tell you.
You have bad taste, man. Sorry.
Yeah, like, sorry.
Watch Mob Psycho.
That must suck for you.
Take the L.
Take
now
the
that
L.
I know what that
now you know
means.
what take the L means. You can use it properly.
Yeah.
Well, this has been very fun with you, my dear friend Rissa, to talk about BoJack with you and to experience this show with you.
I'm glad to have known you.
And I'm glad that you could see me cry.
It was
live,
nice. I'm glad that I knew you.
Person. I'm glad can't say that to me. This is so long. We need to dip out before we cross literally 2 hours. That cannot happen. No one is gonna listen to this.
We gotta dip.
We gotta dip. I gotta go home. It's a Sunday night.
Oh yeah, I gotta go to bed.
I will edit this tomorrow, or maybe I'll edit it at some point.
Okay, cool. Bye, everybody. Watch
BoJack.
BoJack.
Bye. Well, I hope you already have watched BoJack.
Well, I hope. Watch it again.
Don't listen to this, I say at the end, if you haven't
watched it again.
BoJack. Watch it again.
Watch it again.
Good night.
Good night.